This right here is the best Fortnite rotate that I've ever seen in all my years of watching Fortnite competitive and doing vids, which is like 6 years at this point. As you can see, the team doing this really smart rotate are Rapid, Bolts, and Canada, who end up winning this entire tournament, as well as this game that we're watching here. And the team that decides to do a regular rotate right next to them is G-Money, Rise, and Virgo. These guys just decide to do the classic rotate into zone build, and that leads to them getting sprayed by absolutely everybody, which is what this smart rotate avoids. So what the IGL Rapid calls to do is double back into Storm and make use of the med sprays, as well as the fact that whenever you're in Storm, you have a lot more freedom to rotate compared to teams that are inside the safe circle. This allows them to farm up their mats and get their wood and brick up very, very easily. Then in Storm, they double back to the Rift Island that they previously claimed, and this allows them to use the permanent rift that spawns underneath and get some spare barrels that they left over from earlier. Also, this allows them to get some very, very crucial surge tags on teams that are rotating and actually using the Rift Island to rotate out of zone before they actually have to leave. After popping the barrels, this is where they decide to use their first med spray and actually tank the Storm. This is really, really important because now all of these teams who are on edge get put with an absolute max distance zone, which means that they have to rotate on foot and use all of their builds and heals getting into the safe circle. Whereas Canada, Rapid, and Bolt can instead just fly the entire way up in the sky and basically circumvent this entire rotate that every other team is doing. Now, as they fly into zone, they make sure to not just follow the very standard white line into zone that a lot of teams do for their rotates. Instead, they go wide and make sure to stay in Storm for as long as possible, and they're going to come out on the dead side up to the north right here. An important thing to remember whenever you're doing a rotate is teams that are right close to the zone are likely to try to get in early to not risk getting service sprayed as they come in late. However, teams that are on the very, very far side of zone, they're forced to run a much further distance, which means they're always going to be the ones coming in late. Using this knowledge, these guys head straight into Utopia City, pop down on the dash blob, which is going to be really important in a second, as well as use another med spray to get themselves back up to full. It might seem like a waste using 2 med sprays this early into the game, but the amount of materials they've saved doing this one rotate, as well as being able to harvest more, is really, really important. And this is when the most important bit of tech on this entire rotate comes into play. So what these guys do is box right next to one of these air vents on top of Utopia City and dash into it. That gives them a really powerful effect where they basically just go flying, and it's impossible really to get tagged heavily by the rest of the server. Canada does the same thing, and Bolts does the same thing, and this basically gives them like a launch pad type effect. They don't have the risk of pulling their glider. Now they fly into zone, slide as they land, and they get very, very deep into zone right here, and they only have to use around 20 builds, which they were able to refarm way more than that earlier into the game. Now let's just take a look at the team that was doing a similar rotate from the same position earlier, and look how much of a difficult spot they're in. They haven't been able to get any storm surge tags because they've been behind the entire game, as well as they are way worse on materials, and they're constantly getting sprayed and fought as they rotate in. As you can see, despite these guys being in the same position 2 zones earlier, now Rapid is way ahead of them and is able to get free tags on them, and very, very importantly here, he instantly rotates as soon as the zone swaps. If you're an IGL and you're watching this video, you always need to be doing these type of early rotates whenever it's possible. He just scouts through an edit, spots there's nobody there, and makes use of a couple dashes to get into zone and be the first one boxed in metal. He also very smartly places a couple metal ramps out to the side, so it's harder to get pre-edited as well as harder to get service sprayed if they get knocked later on in the game. Now, as we go into 8 zone, this is when these guys get hit with another absolutely terrible rotate. And the reason they were able to win this entire cup, as well as get 3 wins overall, is how much better they are at using the mobility items this season compared to all the other pro teams. Even teams like Clicks, Eomzo, and Higgs, as well as Peatbot, Ritual, and Cold, they're nowhere near as good at making use of the new dash sprites that got added in. As you can see, these guys are using 2 sets of them just so they have that much more mobility than every other team. This allows them on every single rotate they do to not be afraid of using dashes over and over. Also, having this many more dashes than other teams allows them to do slightly different rotates than other teams. As you can see right here, this would be a very, very tough rotate to do if you only had 3 dashes, because of course you'd have to use more than that just to get in. However, these guys make use of them very, very smartly. Rapid dashes twice and then decides to box up and wait for his teammates to get to him. This is really, really important because now it allows them all as a team to recycle the same blob that they're going to use in a second, as well as get 3 dashes back the second part of this rotate. Rapid scouts once again, as he's been doing the whole game, checks exactly where he's going to go, also comms it to his teammates so they know exactly where they're going to aim for, which is that little gap right there in the builds. And this is when they use the triple dash rotate, which is by far the best rotate. Basically, you sprint, jump, dash, and then just before you hit the ground the final time, to avoid taking full damage, you dash once more, and they also do a nice little bunny hop to get in. And again, do not be afraid of using mats at this point in time. It's so much better to build a 2x2 out of metal rather than waiting in a single box and then getting service sprayed and using all of your builds. At the start of first moving, this is when these guys continue to do really smart rotates, and the rotates they're doing are actually way way ahead of pretty much all of the other pro teams in the list lobby. And that's by making use of the dead side of moving zones, which I'll talk about in a second. So how do they actually rotate first moving? Exactly the same as earlier. They scout, they get a load of information, rapid pre-coms a path that they're all going to follow, as you can see, heading straight through the middle zone, exactly where they're going to end up. Dashes twice, makes it very easy for his teammates to follow, as well as bunny hops towards the end so he gets a little bit further distance and builds his head and his side so his teammates aren't going to take any damage. At this point in time, they get a nice, easy, free refresh on the Shambles player on that really far rotate from earlier on in the video, Virgo right there, and they continue to push through zone. This is a really, really important concept. So many teams, when they get into the end of first moving, just sit in a single box or in a couple boxes and look for kills, which, I mean, of course, is a good play if you need the refresh, but it's so much better to get further into zone and get towards the dead side, as you can see. At this point in time, everybody is going to stop moving, and these guys get themselves the whole way towards that back, towards the west right here, where there is absolutely nobody else. And this means as soon as the next moving pulls down towards the south right here, look how much of an easier rotate this is going to be compared to all of these other teams on the congested side of zone. Rapid marks exactly where they're going to go. He dashes wide into Storm and then dashes back and then makes use of another dash and gets these guys into a really good elevated position. If you're ever unsure about a rotate and you're having a little bit of difficulty with where you're meant to go, just go up players. It might get you spread by height, but it does make the actual rotate a lot easier to do. As you can see right here, these guys are in a pretty difficult spot, and I'm sure you've probably run into this situation in an endgame. You're not really sure what to do. One of your teammates is the fragger and they're trying to go for kills backside, and maybe one of you is low and trying to heal up, so you're a little bit disjointed. This is when it is really important that you follow the exact playbook that Rapid does right here, which is just focus on getting front side. This is literally the most important thing when you're ever sure of what not to do in the endgame. If you still got builds and you can still tarp for a little bit, just focus on getting front side because it makes the game so much easier and of course guarantees you a better placement. So as you can see right here, Rapid tarps. Like I said, he's going to get sprayed by height. However, he's able to get himself the whole way to the front side without taking too much damage, just by doing a couple backward stairs at the correct period of time, as well as dropping down towards front side at this point. Now this might look like a low ground claim, but really all they're doing is just buying themselves a little bit of time, even though they take a little bit of damage, to actually chill out, reload all their guns, get themselves all regrouped, and start making a play to actually get a refresh together. This is when Kanala makes the very, very good call to start looking for some refreshes on solos and people who are Shambles fighting on the backside. And again, this is only possible because he is towards the front side, because he's got a couple seconds to shoot back. It's a nice refresh right there, as well as doesn't faff around getting a spare body. Instead, he just gets back with his teammates, gives his IGL all of the hards, and now these guys are in a perfect position to continue on in this endgame. Rapid finds another kill right here, and as soon as he gets that kill, take a look what he does. Exact same playbook. It's looking very, very difficult. It's looking like it's going to be a very, very tough rotate. There's people, you know, right above him. There's people in front of him. There's people on height spraying down. All he does is doesn't care about the fact that he's going to get sprayed by height. It elevates up just like that, continues to tarp, and continues to get these guys towards front side where they can start looking for a kill. And this is genuinely so important. If you can get all of your team towards front side just for like 20 seconds or so, it gives you time to reload all of your guns, especially the spy rifles take ages to reload, as you guys, I'm sure you know, as well as it gives you time to spot a refresh opportunity, which is what Rapid is going to do next. He calls for his teammates to put on a pre-edit. Kanada holds out and makes sure everything is secure. They get the pre-edit on this other team who is completely unaware, as you can see right there, and they get a full triple refresh on this other team. So the way that Rapid actually finds his refresh is just by spotting a team down on low ground that is unaware. As you can see, all these guys are shooting their guns, they're trying to tarp front side, they're completely unaware, as well as crucially, they're sitting in wood, so it's much easier to break the build. It only takes around 4 bullets of the spy gun to actually break a wood wall. Then they get the pre-edit on, other team is completely unaware, they've already knocked 2 of them by the time that the guys turn around. Rapid hits a nice shot into the last guy, and these guys get a full refresh. Now at this point in time, if you guys have paid attention to my channel or any of the Master Guard videos for a long period of time, you should always know, even if it's in a trio game, a duo game, a solo game, as soon as you get a big refresh, which is exactly what that was, now they've got over 1,000 builds, as soon as you get a refresh in an endgame, if you want to do well and you want to win tournaments, you need to start thinking about going for height, which is exactly what these guys do. They use this new bat item that is absolutely ridiculous, basically gives you invincibility. They fly straight up to high ground, and that team that was earlier being super active and super spammy on high ground now is completely distracted and they're busy fighting teams on height. That allows Rapid to take height, as well as allows his teammates to get up to him, and he just tarps, and now these guys are in established position to actually go ahead and win the game. Of course, if you don't get a bat item from the refresh, you probably have to tarp front side and then think about going for height, but with that new item, as soon as you get it, you need to be going for high ground because of how strong it is. Basically impossible to counter because you're invincible as you go up. Now, as final zone closes, this is when you can see they don't have any white heals on any of them, so it's really important if you're ever in this situation that you don't sit around and just passively wait for heal off, because there could always be somebody with a chug. Even if you survive into the final circle, they're going to win just because of that heal factor. So what Kanada does is he goes down and tries to interrupt everybody who's trying to play heal off, as well as grabbing some bodies, and then Bolt does a nice little height retake with the bat, and this basically means that at this point that everybody else in the server is pinched between Bolts and Rapid on the high ground, as well as Canada spraying up from low ground, which makes this final clutch from Puyo basically impossible. No matter what you can do right here, he's gonna have a tough time of winning this, and Bolts jumps on the side angle and takes him out. All right guys, every single Fortnite zone is predetermined. From the minute you load into the game, Fortnite already knows exactly where the moving zones are going to start ending and where the final moving zone is actually going to end up. This basically allows you, if you think logically while you're playing the game, to predict where the zones are likely to go. So as you can see right here, before the next zone shows up, all of the previous zones in this game have been playing over towards the east right here. They've been playing towards Shining, towards the right hand side of the map. However, as soon as there's one before endgame pops, it pulls straight back. As you can see, it's basically touching the sort of bottom side right here, and that tells you, if you're a smart player, that it's quite likely the partials as well as the end games are going to be somewhere on this side of the map. And if you don't believe me, then go ahead and watch Rapid, who won the entire cup right here. He won 3 out of 6 games on NA Central. He goes up and he invests a load of materials into this base because he's pretty certain he's going to pull the 6th zone right here. And there's no reason you would use that many mats, like literally using this many builds, without thinking you're going to pull the next zone. So now, as we skip forward a little bit, I'll skip forward to when the 6th zone is going to pop. As you can see, it does exactly what you would expect, given the fact that it's pulling basically right down towards this edge. It plays dead center on these guys. But that's not the most interesting part of this. Now, as you can see, it's pulled dead straight down. There's actually quite a likelihood, because it wants to go this way since all the zones are predetermined, that the next zone is going to pull somewhere in this vicinity over here towards the island. Obviously, it's got nothing really to do with the island. Just by the fact that the zones are playing like this means that is where the Fortnite is going to put the end game, just based on the likelihood of where each zone can pull and the distance from it. So as you can see right here, Rapid uses even more builds, building up. Very, very good play by him, refarming the entire time. Very, very standard stuff. And just as you can see, everybody who's been getting absolutely screwed on these max distance rotates now has 0 builds remaining. Rapid, Canada, and Bolts have cap mats, and the next zone plays down where these guys have already got a mark. I mean, realistically, very, very likely that's happened, but these guys are using it to their advantage. And of course, they're going to win this game. It's going to be the easiest win ever, just because they have so many more mats compared to every other team trying to rotate in last second. So to finish up this video, I wanted to show you guys exactly how these guys take height in the other games where they're not just flying up onto height with that new crazy bat item. The way that they do this is just by constantly scouting and pressuring height and basically forcing height into reacting. So as you can see right here, the way they do this is looking back and shooting the weak connected points. The team up on height is obviously a really good team. Cami, Seti, and Harry, who are actually in a very, very good situation. Seti's playing ulti height. These other guys have got split angles and resting a lot of mats. They're playing height very, very well despite being on high ping. But despite the fact that they're playing height very well, it still means that they're weak and susceptible to a team just playing second height and chopping them out over and over, as you can see. This forces them to actually go ahead and connect a couple times and actually rebuild up onto high ground, wasting even more of their materials, as well as in the meantime, while those guys are connecting and, you know, shooting them back and stuff, it allows these guys to basically rotate completely for free. Contrary to what a lot of you guys probably think, if you pressure high ground correctly and actually force them to reconnect and force them to drop down and connect multiple times, it allows you to do really free rotate, just like these guys are doing, especially with the new dashes, which is what these guys are always playing. They always make sure when they're going into endgame, they still have somebody 3 dashes left that they can constantly use over and over. So when the other two are chopping out and, you know, breaking out height and griefing them, not letting height a second to breathe or really think, these guys have got 3 dashes and they're ready to rotate towards the front side. All they do, look, rotate, go ahead and start tarping. And this is when Rapid plays this absolutely perfectly. He does not rush to take high ground, which I think is really important that you need to learn from. All he does is do a full safe tarp, like basically just set tarp on the mid ground, while his teammates constantly chop out and grief high. And again, the amount of times these guys are griefing high ground means that they are forced to connect. So as Rapid starts layering up right here, instead of Seti actually just spraying and breaking them out, instead he is forced to drop down and connect, and this actually makes it easier for Rapid to go for high ground in a second. Kanada keeps on dropping out. Now Charry does a good play and starts dropping down, but it really doesn't matter at this point, because look, these guys are all ready and they're basically ready to go for high ground, but they're still not rushing it. They're playing nice and slow, keeping their tarp up. They're able to get a kill right here onto Charry as he drops down with little builds left. He was the one who wasn't tarping, he was just dropping his mats to tarper, and now Rapid start going up for high ground. Look how well he goes up. He does a very, very safe, protected high ground take, and he's not doing it from the backside like Bolts and Kanada are doing, because that obviously risks dying. Instead, he is just tarping up towards the front and securing the new front side. So even if his teammates take a load of damage and be low on backside, he will be front side, looking back, shooting, making it possible for this other team to actually maintain high ground. Bolts does a good play and chases Seti into Storm, gets a load of chug chugs from him, and now these guys are completely established up onto high ground. And the perfect timing of this, and this is when I think is actually best to go for high ground in trios at the moment, is third moving. That is when high ground has used all of their builds on first and second moving, as well as the previous zones, tarping and trying to connect over and over, and you just take it on the mid ground after after third moving. And now it's so easy to hold height because there's not too many teams left. You can just spray continuously, and also people are going to be really shambled, so you're going to get a lot of elims at this point in the game. These guys averaged 9 elims a game doing this strategy in all of the games that they won. And just like that, they've got Canada sitting on the high ground, securing the win. Rapid down, actually trying to fight with bolts. And at this point in time, there's really nothing anybody else in the lobby can do. And just like that, these guys get their third win of the cup by playing and taking high ground from using the dashes so well during the mid game. If you guys enjoyed this video, please leave a like. I want to do some more trio stuff, but there really isn't too many cups, unfortunately. So I'm probably just going to be focusing on doing a load of fighting videos on YouTube for you guys, since you tend to enjoy them. So that's all. Make sure to go check out the Fighting Masterclass if you want to improve, as well as Bolts is, of course, one of the featured pros on the Fighting Masterclass because he's absolutely crazy.